Welcome back to Platform Skate Podcast, episode 17.
17 with Kevin Beauchamp. Beauchamp, the champ, Kev. What else have you been called?
The champ, Beauchamp, low champ. That's pretty much it. No one calls me that anymore, though.
No?
Champ. I try and get people to call me that.
Yeah. Well, why wouldn't you? Like, it's got to be one of the best nicknames you can have.
But people just think I'm like trying to say I'm the best or something.
Right,
like, no, that's like my name.
Yeah, exactly. Back in the day, it was always the champ or Beauchamp or Beauchamp or...
Yeah.
Yeah, so you've been talked about on the podcast, and so now you're here in person, so you can either defend yourself or not. Not that you need defending. I think most of the talk about you has been pretty kind.
Yeah, the only one I've heard so far is just on Shaq's. I heard him talk about me a little bit.
Yeah,
and I was happy with some of the stuff he said. I wasn't like come running and defend myself.
Right. Yeah, I don't think you need to.
We'll see when Adams comes out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. People will have already heard it by the time they hear this. So yeah, those were guys that you spent a lot of time with, and so a lot of the stories that they talked about will be so familiar to you and bring back memories.
Yeah.
And so let's go back there to those memories then. What was it like for you, like getting into skateboarding?
Yeah, it was interesting listening to Shaq talk about it, because it was it took that came a little bit later. It took me a while to build up the courage to go to the outdoor park when it was the platform there. It was I think he mentioned it, but just like it could be a pretty intimidating place.
Yeah. And
I don't even know if I was really even allowed to go. Like, I can't remember if my parents really wanted me going there.
Right.
And so, yeah, it kind of started with like Ruben Todd, him and I, we were really close back then. And so we started skating together.
Okay. Just on the street in front of the house, or what?
I remember him trying to teach me. Like, he had an older brother that I think had picked up skating a little bit, Nate.
Okay.
Trying to teach me what an ollie was, and I just had no clue. Like, I just could not comprehend how that worked. But for whatever reason, we just kept doing it. I had a Walmart board.
Nice.
Yeah, but it had steel trucks, so it was like,
oh wow,
it was actually pretty good. Like,
wow,
the bearings were okay. So that's what I learned on. But eventually, we would sneak over to the platform and just basically just watch guys at first, right? Like, back then it was pretty busy whenever you went in the evening. And so we just like watch in awe of the guys doing tricks, but every once in a while you'd like roll up and there'd be no one there, and that was like, you're in heaven, right? Like, yes, there's no one here.
We got the place to ourselves.
Yeah, and so you'd quickly just like, try as much stuff as you can, and then all of a sudden a carload of guys would come up and you're like, bail out. Just sit down and watch them.
Yeah. Don't say anything that's gonna get you in trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
So before you were there then, skating on the street in front of your house or whatever, did you have any obstacles to skate? Like, did you have a rail or a little kicker or anything?
No, I never had anything like that. Especially when I was just learning, like, it was just like, obviously at the beginning, you're just learning how to like ollie, trying to ollie onto the grass on the curb. Like, I remember the first time like I legitimately ollied and like knew that like that's what I did, was it was like over a hockey stick.
Right.
Just like, what just happened? But yeah, other than that, we would just roll around, try and do tricks over manholes, and then maybe find stuff around town, like little ledges or something that you could like ollie off of. Or
Can you remember any of those spots in town that you would have skated?
Like this was probably a little later on when I was actually like rolling with Shaq and Adam and Dalen and Kyle and those guys.
Mm-hmm.
We would go. I remember I was thinking when Shaq was talking about it, but one of the places we would go to was I think it was was it Crescent View School?
Right.
They had kind of a little
The bank.
Yeah. And that was a pretty fun place. You do tricks into the bank and kind of roll down.
Yeah, we were actually talking about that with Adam. How you can't do tricks into the bank anymore.
Okay.
They got rid of the sidewalk on top, which is so bad because that was such a nice spot. And now you can you have to ollie up the curb into the bank is the only way to use that now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was a pretty cool place. Like I remember skating it. It's like you felt like you're in a video or something, even though it was such a mellow bank.
Right.
But it just like the idea of it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then the clinic was another place. Like there were manual pads there that we.
Adam was talking about the clinic. Yeah,
he brought that up.
Yeah, I remember doing a bit of filming there.
So
we need you to confirm something. He said that Shaq did a nose manual, and it was a really long one. And he said it's filmed somewhere, but we can't find the film. So.
Oh yeah, I mean I believe it.
Yeah.
I mean Shaq was pretty good back then. I think what I do remember is Kyle Martin's, and he would do like I can't remember. It would be like switch 180s to like I don't know, or maybe it was like a fakie or like a half cab to a manual or something like that. Or nose manual. Like he would do crazy tricks like that. I do remember that.
And you said there's it was filmed.
No, what? No, I remember filming with AJ Kent.
Oh, okay.
Had a camera, and so we would go with that, and that was with like AJ, Sean, Baker, and then Ruben.
Yeah,
those guys.
And the footage, where's that at?
You're gonna have to ask AJ. He's probably got it somewhere. It's in his dad's place somewhere in a box. Yeah, that would be
fun to see that.
We're on a wild goose chase for some of this footage.
Yeah.
There's actually I did have a pretty good line on one of them. I remember.
Okay.
Specifically
at the clinic.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I do not remember the spot at the clinic at all for some reason. When Adam brought it up, I was surprised because I don't remember skating the clinic.
Oh yeah, it was fun. There's some a longer kind of mani pad, and then you could go further down, and there's sort of a shorter section that you could hit. But that was before they have the new building
right
now. So I don't know if is the old building still there?
I think the original building. Did they build onto it?
Yeah, but Adam said that the spot is gone now.
It is gone?
Yeah, they redid like the outside, inside, everything. Like it's basically a new building.
Yeah.
I think it's the same spot though, but they don't have any.
Oh yeah. Oh, and then Boston Pizza, the Flower Gap there. That was that was a fun spot. Yeah, right by the entrance. There was sort of like
there's a bench there now that's blocking it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We used to always get kicked out there. You'd go and hit it a few times, and right away the management would be out and kick us out. So that was fun.
Yeah. Speaking of that, what about the fire hydrant gap at PCI? Was that was after your time, maybe, I guess, eh?
Yeah, I don't really remember that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Was there people hitting it or what?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That was, I remember Kaylin would session that a bit.
Oh yeah.
So going back anyways, so you start hanging out at the platform a little bit. Mm-hmm. Did that change your progression watching those guys?
Yeah, I think for sure, like you see what sort of is capable, right? Or what's possible. I didn't have any videos or anything. There was nothing there's no YouTube. So you weren't going on and learning how to do tricks. Like it was just all either someone taught you or you just sort of saw someone do it and you sort of learned that way. And maybe the only other thing would be like magazines, go to 7-Eleven, buy a magazine like Thrasher or something for $5 or $6. And then yeah, maybe pick up some stuff that way.
Yeah, look at the sequences.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's what the feet are doing. Okay, that's what I have to do. Yeah. But yeah, just sort of watching people do stuff and then going and trying it when it's your turn.
Shaq talked about some of the craziness that happened over there. Do you remember that? Like, did you experience any of that craziness there?
Yeah, I don't know if I like, not the stuff he was alluding to. I think that was kind of beforehand where you're like, everyone bails out. But I remember like, there being rumors of like, oh, there's going to be a big fight, like, oh, it's going to be skaters versus the IP. And so, so we, like I would never, like, too scared to participate in that craziness, but it's like, we gotta go. So I remember like me, and it was like Sean Baker and Adrian Rubin and those guys, like we'd kind of scoot over and like see what, like try and like watch.
Right. Yeah. From a distance.
So dumb, yeah. Get caught in the middle, but nothing ever happened with that, but.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, stuff definitely happened when you're there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, people would
yeah, for sure. Yeah, it always happened there. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a season where it was really crazy there.
Yeah. It's definitely a place my parents, like if my mom had known what it was like, she never would have let me go. But I think it was just sort of like, it was a different time where it's like, he's off skateboarding, I trust him. And so then, yeah, you just go there and she just didn't know. So
yeah. Sometimes it's better that way. Sorry, Mom.
Yeah. But I stayed out of trouble for the most part when I was there.
What was some of the craziest skateboarding you saw go down there?
Yeah, I don't know if I can think of anything specifically, but I just remember, like we were talking beforehand about like Brett McDougall and just how good he was. And like we all just looked up to him, like in terms of his ability, like and his style too. Like he had such good style, and he could just do stuff that was just like it'd blow our minds back then. And that was like when I was just starting out. So it's just like it seemed impossible that we would ever be able to do something like that. And so I just remember mostly just watching some of the guys, and each of them had kind of their own. Thing that they were good at or their trick that they would do, and you kind of knew them for that. And like, I know for Brett, it was like the 3 flip, like he could just do that over everything, right? The little planter gap, he would always do that. And, so I think just watching guys do their thing was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there was, and that was a season where there was a lot of skaters that were there, right? Like that was a good time to be a skater in this community.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, I guess next, like part of that would be, I guess when the metal ramps arrived there, what do you remember about that season?
Yeah, I mean, I remember I was pretty stoked to have them show up. Like they were pretty sweet, and I remember like they were big. I remember that. Yeah. Like especially like the big quarters and stuff. Yeah. Like I think I would still think they're big.
Yeah, they are still big. Yeah.
But I think overall like I was pretty happy about it. I know there was a little bit of drama around that.
Yeah.
I mean, there always was, but
yeah. You weren't involved in that though, were you?
Not really. Like I think it is interesting listening to it and then just sort of trying to reflect on kind of what I felt at the time. And I think I was basically torn both ways, right? Like it's sort of that idea of like, oh, some people are mad about this and some people don't care. And I probably don't care because that's just kind of,
right,
how I go about things. But I think back then I had a harder time with sort of that pull, right? Not knowing what to do. Like I was, I was probably pretty insecure back then. So it's like,
yeah. And like that, that handrail that was part of that metal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we have footage of you hitting that lots when it moved into Campbell Soup. Were you already hitting it when it was out there at the platform?
Yeah. I think I remember it being out on the platform for quite a while, and I could definitely skate it when it was still outside.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that would have been my favorite piece for sure. The handrail, like that was was good.
That was my assumption, because it seems like a lot of the footage that we have from in Campbell Soup, you're skating that, and a lot of the guys, like that's what they were skating, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like it was mellow enough, and like the height was like, I mean, it was low enough you could like try stuff on it, but high enough that it was still like pretty cool if you did something on it, you know? Like, yeah. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah. You can still hit it now if you want. It's sitting at Dakota Teepee.
Oh yeah, right. I remember doing a skate camp one year, and all that stuff was still there.
Right.
Yeah. Or it was moved there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's in a different spot now. It's a little bit better. Like the spot that it was moved to in Dakota Teepee was pretty rough.
Yeah.
And it's where it is now. It's not super smooth, but it is definitely better than where it was. Talk about your involvement in skate camps.
Yeah, I feel like, I'm trying to think, like I feel like I was only involved in the one.
Oh, okay.
Like the summer that I was like working here.
Oh, okay.
I think that was pretty much the only one that I kind of helped put on, and
okay.
And I remember that was fun. Like I think we had like five young kids that like had never really ridden or anything.
Right.
Like, I know. So there was definitely, it was fun to sort of kind of be with them all week and just sort of spend time with them and get to know them. But it was also challenging too, right? Because it's just like their exposure to skateboarding was so limited that it's like you're trying to, you had to balance trying to like teach them stuff with like the fact that, you know, you turn around and they're like on their tummies on the skateboard. It's like, okay, we're just going to let them have fun. Right. And
yeah. Or else they're like, skateboards are sitting somewhere and they're running around playing tag or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's cool because like, I definitely, like, I know, with my time sort of volunteering at the skate park kind of over the years, like when I remember when I was getting into it, like even just at the original platform and stuff, like you don't really, you know, every once in a while the older guys might say hi to you or something, right? And that like meant so much.
Right.
But in terms of like getting mentored or like, you know, having them come alongside you and say, hey, like, what are you trying to do? Like, want me to give you some tips or something, right? Like that didn't really happen. Like it was more like you had to kind of earn your respect by doing something cool and then be like, oh, okay, like he's, you know, whereas, you know, and so I think when I started volunteering, it was more like trying to bridge that gap a little bit where it's, you know, you know, someone who maybe is never going to do anything super amazing on a board, but they can come and, you know, they can still have a lot of fun because they feel like it's a pretty safe space for them.
Yeah, I would say that I think there's a lot of guys from that era that really looked up to you and respected you because not only were you like a good skateboarder, but you also like were really good at making other people feel like they're included and important. And so as a volunteer at the skate park, those are critical pieces to have. And so, I think there's a lot of guys that still today have a lot of respect for you because of that. And, it's, I've always appreciated the way that you interacted and were part of the community back then.
Yeah. I mean, it can be a tough crowd, right? And I know like I think, and like I had mentioned earlier that I was, I struggled with like insecurity quite a bit back then when I was first starting, for sure. And so, yeah, to like I was saying, like you would come to the park and you just sit around, right, for fear of like doing something and looking dumb or, know, and so, I was not good back then in terms of just like getting out and trying stuff, right? It's like, it's like I have to at least be able to show something if I'm going to get up at all. And so, yeah, I mean, a person can, a kid can slip through the cracks, if that's kind of all they have is sort of their skill to show. And so I remember it being tough that way, but
yeah. So did you feel like you slipped through the cracks sometimes?
Yeah, I think so. Like I remember, like this is more like snowboarding related, but I remember going on a snowboard trip. I have no idea who, like it was, I don't know how I got set up with it, but we went to like Assisipi, and it was like basically all the old skaters, they snowboarded too. And so we went on this trip, and I remember like I was pretty much the only one my age. Like I went with like Nate Todd.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like I remember trying to like fit in, but like missing the mark so bad, right? Like trying to crack a joke, but it just like they just chewed me up, right? Like it just like and I was just so ashamed. But yeah, so I mean, I wouldn't say I slipped through the cracks, because I think eventually I did start to get better, and so then I did start to do stuff. And I can remember specific times when it's like you do a trick in front of the group, the whole crowd, and it's like it's good enough that it gets some cheers. Yeah. And those little things sort of build your confidence, and you kind of keep moving forward. I was thinking about that.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, because I guess for me, thinking back, I just think more of the times where you were that person of influence, and like one of the older guys in the community that people looked up to. I don't remember so much that time when you were that young. And it's interesting to think that as somebody who feels like they're maybe slipping between the cracks or kind of on the fringe, you could say, that when you were older and had that place of respect and influence, then you made sure that those were the kids that didn't get left behind, right? And made sure that those fringe kids were welcomed in. Yeah. And so just it's a really good story about taking your own experience and creating positivity out of it, right? That's awesome.
Can I share the story about when I remember kind of, at least in my mind, I remember it kind of changing for myself at a certain point? Like,
yeah, for sure. Please do.
I was thinking about it when Shaq did his podcast. It just kind of came back to me, but so I mentioned like the little planter gap. Yeah. And it was an evening where it's just like, sometimes there'd be like no one there, you and a couple other guys, but it was one of those evenings where it's like everybody was there. It was like a good night to be at the platform.
Are we talking about the square hole that was used for burning stuff?
Yeah, I think it was like 3 feet by 3 feet. Yeah. I'm going to say it was 4 feet by 4 feet, because
that's a bit of a stretch.
3.5 by.
I think Adam said it was like 6 or 7 feet.
What?
So yeah, that's what he said on his.
He's talking about the ramp you drive up, the car gap. No, so yeah, the little planter gap that everything got burnt in. So it was a night where we had a little session going skating that thing. And so this was like at the point where I was starting to like learn, like I could fakie ollie and do tricks in fakie. And so, but I had never, like, I wasn't very good at it. And so I remember I was trying to fakie ollie that gap. And basically it was like, go as fast as you can and then pop a little fakie ollie,
Yeah.
and see if you make
and
it.
hope that you don't hang up.
Yeah, exactly. Like very dangerous, just treacherous. But somehow, you know, when the session was still hot, I managed to do it. And it was sort of like you're going so fast that you're like, if you land, you're just rolling out, and it's like everyone is cheering, right? And, that stands out quite a bit. Like
Interesting.
That was a pretty cool, at least for me anyways, it was a pretty cool moment of like, yes, like respect, right? Like, like I did something that,
I got noticed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So would you say that was like a pivotal point where after that there was like, okay, now like I have the ability to hang and
yeah, I think so. Like I mean, maybe there had been other times where I'd done something and you get some cheers or something, but that was one where it was like, it seemed like, at least in my mind, everybody was there and everybody saw it. And so that was like, I mean, it was a good enough trick that they thought it was pretty cool too. So
yeah. And obviously impacting for you to remember it all these years, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I would say it felt pretty pivotal.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a good story. And it's a good reminder for us to make sure that when guys are working on a trick to cheer when they land it, right? Like because who knows what you're spurring them on to by cheering for them.
And that's what I always loved about, like, I mean, the skate community in general, but I think even just our group, even just at the Campbell Soup, where just like there could be someone brand new trying something that it's like you've been doing for 10 years and it's nothing to you. Yeah. But we all kind of got that it's something to this person, right? And when they finally do it, it's like you cheer like it's actually it's something to you too, right? Like it's meaningful. I always thought that's really cool.
We try that quite a bit here too, when like little kids come and they do like a kick turn at the bottom of the ramp. Yeah. And it's just like, or even if they go up and roll fakie just over the flashing on the bottom. Oh, yeah. Like it's just,
let's cheer for them.
Yeah.
And it's even for myself, which as you were telling that story, that it brought to my mind just a few weeks back where I've been working on that crazy heel flip ever since I had my knee surgery and just struggling. And in the one night here, I landed it like a couple times in a row. I landed like 4 of them in a matter of a short time frame, and everyone was so hyped for me, even though it's just a heel flip, right? Like which they all probably could do. But for me, and everyone was so hyped in the same way that when last Tuesday, Joel Reimer did a blunt kickflip to fakie on the quarter. Wow. And everyone was hyped on that, and they should be, right? Like that was impressive. But I'm thinking about it, like they cheered as much for my kick flip or my heel flip as they did for that, which is an awesome thing. Like you say, part of the community to cheer for people and just be like being aware of people's skill level and when they're progressing, to be hyped on it. Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I think that's really important for people's progression as well. Like just like the kids that we cheer for, once they come back, they're like learning new things, and like the smile that's on their face and stuff, it's just it's motivating. Yeah. So
it takes so much work, right? Like I think that's part of it. We all know how much work it takes to learn a trick. Regardless of what that trick is, right? It's such a technical sport. Yeah. That it's you see someone do something and try hundreds of times or thousands of times. And
then, exactly.
Before they get it really well.
Yeah. So that that's something that we talk about here all the time is part of the culture here that we want to preserve and pass on to the younger guys, is to continue doing that, because it's such an important part of being a skate community, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you have any more stories from Campbell Soup? You spent a lot of time there. Were you part of the shenanigans that stayed up all night to build the...
I don't know if I was. I think I would like to say that I was.
Yeah.
But and Shaq even kind of like wondered if I was there, but I have a feeling I probably wasn't. I think most of my time, like, I had a hard time kind of just being focused on one thing back then. So it was either like I was either in some long-term relationship or something, or at the park. Wasted so much time on stupid girls. Yeah, and it's not like I wasn't even like a ladies' man or anything. It was just like
I'm sure the ladies would differ with that comment.
I doubt it. Don't ask them. I needed their affection.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that is something us guys need.
Mm-hmm. So no, I don't think I was there for that.
Okay.
But I do have a lot of good memories. I did spend quite a bit of time at that park.
You did. Yeah.
Just even like, just because I was volunteering there. So yeah, I think even just having a lot of fun, skating, and that was sort of, I think I was probably like 16, 17 in those, in that time. So that was a lot of time spent with like some of the younger guys coming up, like Kalen and Butler and those guys. Yeah. It was pretty fun.
Mm-hmm. And then you were also quite involved with trips that you did a number of trips with us.
Yeah.
And there's lots of stuff that happened on those. Were you on the crazy trip?
Yeah. I remember all of it. I can't remember. I think that was kind of when I was like I was like a volunteer at that point. And so I was kind of like, I mean, I wasn't like a leader on that trip. Like I was still one of the guys, but I know I was kind of like shadowing you a little bit. And so I remember what I remember about the whole like the hot tub fiasco is how mad you were. Yeah, I remember like scurrying behind you, like as you're storming down the halls, like gonna go talk to the guys, and just like, ooh, like, come on, watch this. Man, that was good. Yeah, I remember Shaq sitting in the hot tub when that all went down. Like he was part of that, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Pretty sure
I remember seeing his little face like in the bubbles. It's like, yeah.
I'm pretty sure he was the instigator of it.
Yeah.
And by the time I saw it, like I think he was still in there, but you couldn't even see him because of the bubbles.
Yeah.
And it just like foamed right up, like you couldn't even see anybody in the hot tub.
I don't doubt it.
It was, I don't, like in my head, I remember it being like the ball of suds that was sitting over top of the hot tub was like almost eye level.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was just like pouring out.
Yeah.
And I mean, Shaq probably had that look where he's just like, Steve's coming, his big eyes, just scared. Like he couldn't help himself.
Yeah. And I mean, there was a lot of things that went on that trip that was pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm. I remember running from the we like walked past this like restaurant or bar.
Right.
I remember running from that because guys were like throwing rocks or something, or throwing beer bottles back at
so
them.
what happened there was we went out for supper in the evening, Boston Pizza or something, and we're walking back to the place where we were staying, and there's this, it was like a retaining wall. It was this cement wall that was like curved.
Yeah.
And then there was like trees or shrubs, whatever in there. And we decided that we wanted to get a group photo of all the guys standing on this cement wall. The issue was there was a pub behind it with a patio.
Okay.
And there were a bunch of dudes on the patio of this pub, and they started chirping at all these guys standing on this wall.
Yep.
So the guys standing on the wall dropped them and mooned all the guys in the patio.
I don't remember that.
So, I mean, not everyone, but enough that, so the next thing that happened was you heard the glass shattering from these guys whipping bottles at these guys on the wall.
Ooh.
I'm down below taking the picture.
Oh yeah.
And all of the kids are up on the wall, right? And all of a sudden there's glass bottles flying from the patio of the pub. And so I'm like, okay, dudes, we got to get out of here. And so everyone starts booking it down the street. These guys come out of the patio and chase us.
Yeah.
And
So fun.
oh yeah, everybody thought it was fun except for me, because
Yeah.
I'm responsible for these kids.
Yeah, yeah.
And the other thing that happened was the dudes were like, oh yeah, like there's more of us than them. Like we can take them. Like why are we running? Like let's turn around and take these guys. And I'm like, but this was in Lethbridge. Yeah. And I'm like, we have no idea who they've called and who their backup is that's coming and what kind of weapons they have. I'm like, no, you guys aren't turning around. You guys keep running.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I just remember the running part.
Yeah. And Rich was there with us and he was in flip-flops.
Oh,
and so we're all booking it and he's trying to run in flip-flops and he's like getting behind, and it was these guys were chasing us.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah, that was
Fun times, hey Steve?
fun
That was
times.
good.
Yeah, we can laugh about it now, but when you're responsible for all those kids back then,
Yeah.
I tell you, there's a lot of stress.
Well, even like that hot tub thing, like
Yeah,
it's funny now, but while it's going, I can imagine how mad you'd be.
well, I'm already trying to figure out, like, we're getting kicked out of this place. Where are we going to go next? Like,
Right, exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that was probably like overall that was one of the toughest trips for you. From what I can remember.
Yeah, the craziest for sure.
Most of the time, like there'd be the odd thing, but it was mostly pretty good.
Yeah.
It was just
it was
the crew.
those bikers from Morden or wherever.
Steinbach.
Steinbach.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it was the BMXers were actually a lot more trouble than skaters on that trip.
From Steinbach?
Yeah.
The kids from Steinbach were more trouble than the kids from Portage?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Other than, I think the biggest incident with the skaters was the hot tub.
Oh yeah.
And then Stigler taking poolside chairs down the slide. I think that
sounds like a good time, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, we did have some damages to pay for in that hotel when we were done.
Yeah.
But anyways, you've done trips with us all over, right? Like you've done California, out west. Yeah, like I don't know, you were a part of a lot of those trips.
Yeah, because eventually I started going as a chaperone too,
right?
So I could keep going.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I definitely remember the California trips as being a highlight, and the parks we would go to and stuff, or just even the spots.
Yeah, what would be some of the standout spots for you on that on those trips?
I remember Third and Army.
Yeah,
a bit. Like, I think it was just like all the spots that you see in the videos and stuff. Like,
right.
Most of them you would never hit.
Yeah.
But just seeing them is
like
the cool
seeing
part,
them
right?
being like, whoa, like it's so crazy that guy's actually hit this and and do like really sick tricks on it.
Yeah, I think the biggest one that comes to mind when you say that is Hollywood High.
Yeah.
I remember taking you guys to Hollywood High, and you would be rolling up to the 12 and I'd be down below with a camera and I'm just like, I need to take these guys home in one piece. Like,
I know. Yeah. I think I remember like Shaq and Akeem rolling up and just like, oh, like this is crazy.
Yeah. I cringed every time they came to the edge and then they'd like stop and look at it. And I'm like, whew.
Yeah. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
But I think that was like, I mean, I was thinking about it just even yesterday, how, back then there weren't that many parks, like even in Winnipeg, they didn't have the parks that they do now.
No.
And so, going there and actually seeing like these concrete parks, and just like being exposed to, all these beautiful spots and parks and just like, it was just like amazing. It was a fun experience to be able to skate them. Yeah. And I mean, you're so new to those spots and parks and stuff that you wouldn't necessarily be doing much on them.
Right.
But just even like roll around and.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember often like some of the, like, because parks were such a new thing and we didn't have them here and guys weren't experienced with them. I remember going often to parks and the guys would end up skating flat in the corner somewhere, right? Because like they just they weren't comfortable either with skating a park or they just weren't comfortable skating in front of the locals or whatever. And they just end up in the corner skating flat.
Yeah, that I do remember that. Like just even you mentioned the locals, right? Like kind of rolling up and then, it's one thing if you show up and the park is empty and then you can kind of explore and sort of take risks and stuff. Yeah. But like if there's a big group of people and they're just like, I mean, this is where they skate all the time. And so they know how to hit stuff and the lines and all that. It's just like, ugh, like, if Shaq was always really good at just putting himself out there. I remember that. Like he would just go and but it usually took me a little while to warm up and kind of build into it.
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah. It was, and you just have such a new appreciation, like especially hitting some of those spots like Third and Army and the Pier, with the videos that were coming out at that time from those spots, right? And you actually see them, and even Hollywood High, you just see these spots and then you think of the tricks that the pros are putting out from there. Just new appreciation for the level, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Anything else on trips that come to mind?
Yeah, well, actually, I do remember like, I think I was thinking just even listening into some of the other podcasts, like just on trips and like how much fun it was just to be like, you have like, you're not focused on anything else except like you're there, with your buddies and you're like in your skating. And I think for me anyways, looking back, there was like there was sort of a, the focus for me was sort of like, it was peaceful, right? Like I didn't have to, like I wasn't thinking about girls or anything. It was just like, you're there just to skate, right? And it's
100% skate focused.
Yeah, you're separated from, from your home life and everything, and so you can just sort of be there. And I think there was sort of a freedom in that for me, where you can just, no
responsibilities, and it's like your brain is 100% on skateboarding, where it's like you're driving and all you're doing is looking for spots. Right.
Yeah.
It'd be cool to be in a van of guys where you're just like, you drive by somewhere and it's like everyone's pointing at the spots.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like I remember going to the Vans Park in California, and I think we went in the evening.
Right.
And we're like on the drive home, you're picking up like donuts from Krispy Kremes, and just like, and Akeem would buy a box and take them back and sell them.
Yeah.
at the hotel. Wheeling and dealing. But yeah, just like, just doing stuff like that where it's just like, you're just having fun, and you're laughing. And I think that was definitely a highlight for me.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of guys it would be, and part of that is why there was shenanigans too, right? Because you kind of checked everything at the door, and you're just 100% focused on like skating and having a good trip, and then that's when some of the craziness would happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it always good times. Like even in spite of all the craziness, like I wouldn't choose to not do any of those trips, right? Like, yeah, I know when we had Cal on, we talked about this idea that that's where like the relationships are built, because you're away, like you're stuck in a van with guys for such a long time, and you get to know each other and appreciate each other. And yeah, just the friendships that are built on trips go so much deeper than just hanging out at the local skate park. And even something as simple as doing a local, like a day trip, even to like go to the Brandon Park with a van load of guys, just has so much more meaning than just meeting up at the skate park. And so to be away for a week or two, it's just that much more, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, there's times like I'm remembering all the good stuff now, but like I can remember, having a hard time knowing kind of where I fit into the scheme of things, right? Even with like the more so like, yeah, like even on the California trip, right? Like, how do I fit in here? And, I think the normal things that teenagers struggle with, right? But I remember that pretty well, of kind of like that struggle. And so I think those trips can be kind of good for that, right? Because it's like, yeah, if it's just one day or something, or an evening when you're, with these people, you might not be able to really figure that out.
Right.
But when you have, kind of 10 days, like the California trip was like 10 days or something, right? And so you can get a real good sense of kind of how you fit in, and kind of your place in the scheme of things. And so it was good for that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a interesting perspective in regards to that. I hadn't actually considered that before, that part of it, but you're right. Yeah, even just to kind of that whole belonging part of it, right? Yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask you about is, like, how does your skateboarding growing up and even as a young adult, and that, how has that influenced your life now?
Yeah, I think like, I mean, I think the mindset of like, skateboarding and the skate culture definitely, I mean, I spent so much time in it, right? And kind of seeing the world through that lens.
Yes.
That even though I'm not super involved at all anymore with like skateboarding or, even riding, I think it definitely has to have an impact, right, on kind of how you see yourself and, and how you view things. And so I think, I think just the way I go about life and how I choose to do the things that I do, I think is sort of like, I don't, even that idea of like not wanting to sort of fit with sort of like the norm, or with sort of like, oh, this is kind of what's expected and this is what you do. I know when I was first getting into counseling as a career, not wanting to sort of fit a certain mold of that, right? And kind of wanting to make it my own. That was always really important to me. And so, I mean, that's kind of what I could think of right now. In terms of.
And then one of the other things that we talk about quite a bit on the podcast is how art is such a big part of skateboarding, and so many skateboarders are artists.
Right.
And you've been involved in photography for sure. How would you look at that, like that idea of being an artist as a skateboarder, like the connection there?
Right. Yeah, that's an interesting conversation, because I mean, honestly, like if I were, like if it weren't for the photography, like I would probably like, I think it would be sort of, I might push up against that a little bit, like in terms of like, because I never would have thought of myself as sort of like a creative person. Like I remember I was friends with creative people, you know, like, like Ruben Todd, especially, right? Like I was friends with him from when I was a kid, and he was always like amazing at art.
Yeah.
And then Jordan, and you know, and I always struggled with that, because I couldn't wrap my head around, you know, doing something like creatively like that. Okay. You know, and so like I mentioned, like when I was talking about, you know, doing tricks in front of people, it's like, I had to sort of have it down before I would sort of like reveal it, or kind of feel comfortable to do it in front of other people. And so the idea of drawing or like painting or whatever, and just sort of like just going, you know, just doing it. Like I was just like, no, like unless I'm good at something, you know, I'm not going to do it. And so that was a very like closed mindset in terms of like trying new things. I mean, so I think now I'm more like, I'll try things that I'm not good at and enjoy. Yeah. But yeah, like photography was definitely something that I connected with, and as sort of like a medium. I had some friends sort of as an adult that were really good, and kind of taught me how to use a camera. And so that was something that was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've seen some of your work, and it's really good. So yeah, I think it's a real valid type of art. And so you got to give yourself a little bit more credit.
Well, but I think for me, it's more like the technical process of something. Like if I can get sort of the technical process of it, then I enjoy that thing. So like skateboarding, right? Like I loved skateboarding because of like how you could sort of think through, okay, like what are my feet supposed to do for this trick? And I'd always be sort of imagining that, and then sort of applying it to.
Yeah. And that's interesting you say that, because I would say that you were always a technical skater too. Like in as far as the way we would describe skaters, like you would gravitate towards the technical tricks and that, rather than just like ripping or whatever, right? Yeah. So it's interesting how that translates into your art then.
And even now, like now I would still see myself like that, even in terms of like career choice, right? Like, and kind of how I'm wired to sort of do things, right? It's sort of, I'm thinking through kind of and imagining what it looks like to do that thing. And if I can see it and I can sort of understand it through that lens, then I enjoy doing it. But if it's sort of like foreign and ambiguous to me, it's just like, ugh,
oh, okay.
Right. Like I'm not.
Okay. So would that be one of the main reasons why you kind of had the career change?
Yeah, okay. I think for sure. Like I like in terms of, so, I mean, I was in counseling for quite a few years, and now I'm switching over to sort of more physio, well, not more, but over to physiotherapy. Right. I'm in school for that now. And so I think like I love the people aspect of it, right? Like I enjoy interacting with people and connecting with them. But I think I just found like counseling, it's very, I mean, there's no clear cut way. Yeah. Right. And it's, it's ambiguous, right? Right. Every day. You
can't just say, do this and this will happen.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And so in terms of like, am I doing this well? Right. I don't know. Right. Yeah. Like what does my client say? Like, oh, maybe the odd time you'll get some feedback in terms of like, wow, this is really helping. But for the most part, it's like, oh, you're trusting the process. And it's like, well, I don't know. And so I think not getting that sort of like that validation or that objective validation in terms of like, okay, this is the end product, that that I always struggled with.
Yeah.
And so now, I mean, physio is a little bit like that. But it's more objective, right?
Right.
Like in terms
you
of
see,
like,
you see results
Yeah.
from week to week or whatever.
yeah.
I really appreciate that you've like come to that space to recognize that and make the bold move to make the change, right? Like I mean, you've got a young family, and to choose to change like that, that is bold and respectful or respectable. I think for you to do, and I think it can be a big encouragement for anyone that's listening that's kind of in that space where they're like, well, I don't know, like if I made the right move or whatever, and that's okay, right? Like it's not too late to make the change to something that fits.
Yeah. I mean, it took a long time. I mean, I was probably, unhappy is like, there was a part of me that was unhappy for quite a few years with it. And it took quite a few conversations with my wife, who's super supportive. And so when the time came to start looking at different possibilities, she was very supportive. So I wouldn't have been able to do it without her support.
Right.
So, but I think it wasn't, it took a couple of years of me deciding that, okay, I need something different before that thing revealed itself as physio.
Right. Yeah.
So but it was just sort of the willingness to, I think for me, it was acknowledging like, I'm not content with this. Like, this isn't working. And I can't do this for, the rest of my life.
Right.
And so, so I think lots of conversations with her, lots of prayer, and, and just sort of time trying to figure that out. And then taking that risk and sort of like, for me, I was taking some classes just to kind of see, but it was related to kind of what I had figured out in my adult life. These are things I enjoy. So what's sort of a career path that kind of fits with that? Yeah. So it kind of took me figuring out what I enjoyed and then kind of working from there.
Yeah. And again, I just tons of respect for you for taking that journey and even when it's like hard decisions, and like you say, Melissa was a big part of it. So good. And now to look back and see, like, I love the connection with how you skateboarded to like how you process skateboarding or work through doing tricks, and how that plays out in the way that you operate today is pretty cool, and hopefully an encouragement to other people that could be listening and are maybe in the same place that you were and are wondering what to do. Yeah. So if you are wondering, just get a hold of Kevin here and he'll counsel you through it.
I still got those skills.
Yeah. Awesome. Another thing that I wanted to bring up was white shoes.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. What about them?
Talk to me about white shoes.
Well, I had a few pairs of white shoes. I you know what? I remember, speaking of like trips and shoes, I remember like I was thinking about this a while back. We'd go to these like shops in the States, and they were like Zoomies or something like that. And they would have like super good deals on shoes. Yeah. And I remember I bought this stupid pair of shoes that like I didn't even know if they were skate shoes. Like you couldn't skate in them.
Oh, okay.
And it was like, so I had a couple pairs of shoes in the hotel, and so these were just kind of my like walking around shoes that I was wearing. Okay. But it was a skate day, and so we drove to a park. Yeah. And I forgot to bring my shoes that I skate in, and so I had these stupid shoes.
Do you know what they were?
I can't even remember. No.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm pretty sure. I don't think I ever wore them after that trip. Like it was just like spur of the moment, like you get excited and then, you see 50% off or something, and so you have to buy them.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I had some white shoes for sure. I remember I had I liked S shoes back then.
Yeah, you and Adam with your S shoes.
Yeah. He's got some now.
I know.
I'm jealous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason I bring up the white shoes is because it was like, I just remember when we would be like checking out shops or whatever on trips, and you always gravitated towards the white shoes, and I remember us having a conversation where you talked about how, oh yeah, when you look down, you're doing a trick and you look down at your feet and those, like, the white shoes are just popping.
Yeah.
I actually, so I always skate black shoes, but the one time I was in a pinch and I got these like lighter colored shoes. They weren't white, but I remember the first time I skated in them, the first session, like whatever I was doing, I was like, this feels so fresh, just because they were lighter. So I believe you. Okay.
Well, and I think part of it too, like, they do, like, they look fresh, like, especially when they are fresh.
Yes.
Right? Like, they're brand new and they're clean. And I think part of it is like, can you, like, when you're skating, can you imagine yourself in sort of like this video or whatever? Like, can you imagine your part and what it would look like? And so, I mean, I think I probably had some skaters that I looked up to at the time, like some pros, and it's just like they had white shoes, and so it's like, I gotta look the part.
So most of the footage that we have of you skating back in the day is all in white shoes.
Oh yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, I just had to bring it up because I just remember you being like, oh yeah, when you look down at that board and those shoes are so white, it just and in all honesty, you gotta, like, all of us will admit that when we feel like we look good on our board, it's gonna help us try tricks. So
yeah. It's funny though, looking back at those videos and then seeing how people actually looked on their boards. Yeah. How ridiculous it is. It's like the biggest shoes ever.
Yeah.
I remember Shaq's big, huge shoes.
Oh yeah. You had some pretty fat shoes too there for a while. All those S were not skinny.
No. I remember my first pair of like legit skate shoes were like a pair of Vans.
Okay.
The Vans Woodstock or something.
Oh, okay.
And they were like a beige. And I remember knowing they were good because then I think I remember like showing up to church one day and there was like some skaters there and like, oh, you got those shoes? Like, I wanted to get them. They're from like Keystone or whatever. So like,
okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like,
I was going to ask where you got them from.
Yeah. It's like I picked right.
Yeah. Got the rep from the skate crew. So it's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are cool.
Yeah. And you've spent a lot of money on shoes since then.
Yeah. Those ones got shredded up, and I remember doing the duct tape for a while.
Yeah.
Some of them.
Yeah.
But
how about shoe goo?
Yeah, I never, like, I think I did that with maybe a couple pairs, but I never really did the shoe goo. Yeah, I didn't really like it.
Yeah, I'm not a big shoe goo guy either, but yeah, I can't imagine you would have been, because it just wouldn't look fresh enough for you.
No,
I use shoe goo.
Yeah, my whites. Yeah.
Awesome. What else? What else do we need to talk about?
We can always have you on again if there is anything.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I was thinking when I was watching Shaq's, I'm like, we got to have get a couple guys.
Yeah, it would be good. Yeah, I think
reminiscing time.
Yeah, I think if you had more people at the same time to like kind of stir the memories and really, I think you're not the first person to make that comment either, that it should be done, and maybe we'll have to figure out a way to have that kind of a platform at some time to do it that way. It'd be interesting to have a bunch of you guys in at the same time and just be eavesdroppers. Yeah. Thanks so much for coming on and sharing with us. It's really good to have you, and lots of guys will love hearing from you on the podcast. And so, yeah, we just really appreciate you being on, and thank you for listening to us and getting us this many podcasts in. And remember to subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and so that you don't miss anything. And we are very open to feedback. So far, our feedback has been really positive, and that's not what I expected. I expected there to be some critiques out there, and there hasn't been. So if you got some critiques, we will listen. And even if you want to make some suggestions as far as content, we are open for that. So feel free to connect with us. And thanks for being there. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.